In this video, we're looking at a butterfly position, PAILs rails, or another way to think of this is a hip abduction as well as hip external rotation position, okay? This position serves us really well because we work both legs at the same time, but you're really gonna find the majority of the stretch sensation really felt on what would be sort of like the adductors of the hip, but you can see as well there is a slight degree of external rotation going on as well, okay? Now, with setting up in this position, you can see I've got my back against the wall, and that's just gonna help me stay nice and upright with the spine and not have to think too much about my pelvic position because it's sort of helping me keep it relatively out of the equation, okay? Depending on sort of your level of flexibility or mobility initially, you might find to a certain degree that you're gonna have to keep the feet out and away from you to a certain degree, or you're gonna be able to keep the feet nice and close, and that's fine. You might also wanna place a cushion underneath the feet because you're driving sort of feet into the floor. It can do us well to have maybe like a few extra mats or something like that underneath the feet. And then from here as well, there's a few ways in which we can go about this. We can either place two very light weights on the knees. It's going to help us determine how much of a stretch we get on this, as opposed to, say, driving down with your arms. Don't get me wrong, you are going to be driving down a little bit, especially when we get to our PAILs rails effort, but constantly putting tension like this, because it's like a 5-minute drill, you're really going to find that the arms tire out very easily. So your better option, if you're not going to use the weights, is to really get to a point where you're sort of pushing yourself back into the wall. Don't worry too much about the spine. Place your hands basically on both ankles. Get your elbows and sort of jam them down and push down. But as I said, as a way of progressing this over time, it is much better to say have plates, dumbbells or some sort that you can sort of place down here and you can position very easily and get a better stretch out of it, because over time, certainly in this one, you're going to find that your own ability to sort of push down is limited. Your own brain is sort of stopping you from pushing down excessively. So having weights is really going to help you relax, focus on your breathing, and not have to concentrate too much about actually pushing down, okay? But when you find yourself in this position, let's actually work on one of our PAILs rails drills. So position yourself in nice and close against the wall, grab the feet, pull them in, adjust your mat if necessary. But once you find yourself in this position, you can sort of wiggle the bum about and just make sure that you're getting a more optimal position for you, okay? I'm gonna press the 2 minutes and we're gonna start, and I'm gonna place my weights on the knees and they're gonna act as my sort of guide here in the stretch. I press my timer for 2 minutes and this is us holding the stretch. Now keep the feet together, keep them even to some degree. Take those big breaths in, nice long exhales. And this is where we try to relax and connect to the tissue that's getting a stretch. And as I said, that tissue that's getting a stretch is going to be felt really, really close to the hip, and you're going to feel it mainly in sort of like the adductor region, okay? Your exhales then, you're just trying to think of, okay, can I melt that tissue? Can I turn it to jello? Can I really stop that kind of tight sensation that I'm feeling, that sort of response, that natural response of the body when we get into a stretch to sort of limit us to some degree? Remember, we're trying to bypass that. We're trying to connect to our nervous system. We're trying to relax. We're trying to show our body to some degree that it's okay, and that's why we hold this stretch for a duration of sort of 2 minutes. Over time, as you repeat this, you're definitely going to get better at this position. You're going to feel yourself being able to get more upright. You're going to feel yourself being able to get a little bit further down with the knees, and certainly during the stretch sensation, you're going to feel that ability to relax a lot more. As you increase the weights over time, your sort of natural response is, because it's an increase in load, is, holy God, I need to sort of tighten up a little bit more. But once again, work with your exhale. That's where it's nice and long. And that's what really helps you connect. Let's talk about the contractions. We're not there just yet in terms of our timer. But what we're going to do is we're going to contract and imagine that we're trying to drive both our feet into the floor as well as bring the knees closer to each other. So that's our element of working on hip adduction. So we're adducting the hips by bringing the knees close to each other. And we're also internally rotating the hip, driving the feet into the floor. That's what initiates sort of internal rotation. Our rails contraction then is going to be the opposite way. We're going to try to imagine pushing the feet towards our face and pushing the knees down to the floor. That's going to initiate hip abduction as well as hip external rotation by driving the feet to the face, okay? So get yourself into a nice position. You've got those weights from here. Now very slowly start driving the feet down into the floor and start driving your knees into your hands or into the weights. Very slow with your tension. You're only adding about 10% each second. So 10, 20, 30. You've got that internal tension in the body. You've already irradiated tension throughout the entire body. And you're just gradually building up to that greatest, safest max effort. So you've got tension all the way throughout. Really, really strong contraction is what we're looking for. And remember, nothing is technically moving. Now very slowly transitioning the opposite way. So very slowly you're going to start driving the knees down towards the floor. You're going to start driving your feet up to your face, and you're really feeling the weights are sort of helping you get a better connection to the rails contraction. You're going to feel that adductor area really start to get a stretch, really lighting up the hips and making a good connection to the tissue. Now very slowly just try to exhale and relax. You're trying to just ramp down with your nervous system. So we really tried to ramp up with everything there and really get a strong contraction. Now we're just trying to let everything relax. So in the same sense that we were trying to do for the 2-minute passive stretch, we're just trying to relax in this position here. Now, to a certain degree, that might have been excruciating for you. So if you need to come out of the position, you're more than welcome to. But if you can, do your best to just sort of stay calm, relax into the position, try not to freak out or anything like that, and just let the tissue melt once again. Same idea with the weights, you're just trying to let them do the hard work for you, but if you're in that position as well where you're sort of grabbing and driving, you are potentially pushing down with a little bit more force still from the arms, but relaxing the legs. Let's go for that next contraction. I know I'm moving about a lot, but you're staying in that same position. So from here, you're going to start driving the knees into the hands, and you're going to start driving the feet into the floor. Remember, you've taken a big breath in, inhaled, and radiated tension throughout the entire body first, and then you've started to contract. You're building 10% each second. That contraction is getting harder and harder, but you're not moving. Nothing is being overpowered from this position. So you're internally squeezing, but nothing is technically moving in terms of the actual position. Now you're going the opposite direction. You're going to try and imagine driving your knees down towards the floor and driving the feet towards the face. There might be a degree of movement, and that's more than okay, especially for the rails effort. We're doing our best to maintain that upright posture. If you've got your weights on the knees, you've got those there as well, doing sort of the hard work, but you're still contracting. You're trying to squeeze everything on the outside of the hips. Now you're going to let that tension go. Big exhale. Try to hold that position. Don't come out of it. I know this might have been tough. You built up to a heavy contraction, especially if this is your second or third time looking at this position, but you're just doing your best to allow the weights to do the work. They're still pushing down here in the knees, and try to do your best to sort of relax all of the tissue on the inside of the hips here. You've still got another 20 seconds, so really focus on that long exhale. If you need to move about, wiggle about the hips, that's more than okay, but just don't come out of the stretch too excessively, okay? Keep relaxing. Keep focusing in on the position. Last few seconds, and let it go. Now, very slowly, you might have to sort of like push the weights over it. You might have to just lift them off and take them off, but just be very slow and gingerly get out of the position. Don't be sort of too quick to just sort of throw the weights off and jump out of the position too quickly, because remember that the tissue itself has just been put into a stretch. It's exposed sort of a new area, and the tissue is relatively weak. So come out of it nice and slowly, and then from here the idea would be bring the knees together, and you can see to a certain degree I'm just taking it myself very slowly, adjusting, wiggling my way out of the position, and not sort of driving out too quickly, not grabbing and yanking at anything, okay? From here then, I've either potentially given you, say, like an end range option to work with, or it may have just been that position on its own. So you can just sort of relax here for a second, wiggle about the hips, stand up, walk about, and explore that new range of motion of sort of hip adduction, all the adductor area that's just opened up, okay? But that movement as a whole was looking at, remember, a butterfly position PAILs rails. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them below. If you like this video, be sure to like it. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the page.